Here we go with DM tips for the leave taking. This is a D&D adventure for 4th level characters, and it is chapter 2 of the campaign Call of the Netherdeep done by Wizards of the Coast in collaboration with Critical Role. In chapter 1 of this adventure, the party was in the town of Jigao. And in this town of Jigao, they should have completed a competition in which they recovered a magic item called the Jewel of Three Prayers. It may have, however, ended up in the hands of their rivals, and as such, you may have to modify the start of this adventure to account for that. This adventure, all the page references are to the hardcover. And of course, there will be spoilers abounding here, so if you're a player, please come back after you play the adventure and let me know how it went. So, pacing for 4 hours. Hour 0 through 1 would be character introductions, a recap of the last adventure, interactions with the rivals, the after the festival, and the warring destinies parts of the encounters. And that's basically where the party has an encounter with Elder Ushru from the town of Jigao, where he tells them about a vision he had as just an additional way to propel them forward in their heroic journey. The next step of that journey being that they should travel to Bazzoxan. And he gives them information about Bazzoxan that will get them to go that direction to find out what is the more information they can find out about the Jewel of Three Prayers. If their rivals are friendly, they'll try and tag along. When I ran it, the party set up a diversion or misled the rivals so they would not tag along. If the rivals are enemies of the party, they could try to steal the jewel and take it to Bazzoxan themselves. If in the first adventure the party did not recover the jewel, and the rivals did, then the rivals will go to Bazzoxan, the party will hear about it, and hopefully follow. Now, on to the road. So, after all the introductions are done and the part of the adventure in Jigao is done, hopefully under an hour, the party will head south along the Emerald Loop. And at the end of the Emerald Loop, or where it intersects the Hallowed Path, they'll come to the Emerald Loop Caravan stop. From there, they'll travel east into the Barbed fields, and finally, the adventure ends with them coming into sight of Bazzoxan. The adventure is mostly made up of a random encounter table, and as such, it's pretty easy to pace the adventure because you can just drop out random encounters as you need to. Now, there are some random encounters you're definitely going to want to hit because they have rewards for the characters, and they also have things that come up in the Emerald Loop Caravan stop. So, there's some you want to do before that. Okay, so if we're doing pacing for 4 hours, hour 1 through 2 would be the random encounters of Lucky Break, Auroa Patrol, and I did the Lost version. You could have the party camp. I did like a mastadon graveyard for the camp. I used the picture that is provided in the adventure for that. Mastodon. So here we go. This is the picture provided in the adventure of a party camping. This is actually the rival party camping. You see the 2 moons here of Exandria. So good world flavor for that. And I had Maggie do, like try to do a chess game. This never came up when I ran it because the party misled them and sent the rivals off in an opposite direction. And then you're going to want to do demonic carrion. So if you are going past 2 hours at this point, you might drop out a little bit of the combat with demonic carrion to get you under the 2 hour mark. Because there's a couple more encounters you want to do, or at least one more encounter you want to do before the Emerald Loop Caravan stop. So in hour 2 through 3, I would do Moorbounder Mayhem on page 43. Feast for the Eyes, if you're under 2.5 hours, you could throw this one in. If you're over 2.5, I'd drop it out. And then Emerald Loop Caravan stop. So the party can then interact with all the NPCs. Various things set up in these random encounters on the way there can take place. It's unfortunately, if you're doing it 4 hours, you've got to kind of cut this a little bit short. You got to get back onto the road here no later than 3 hours, 15 minutes in, I'd say. Because you got an ill omen encounter. There's an image on page 5 of the book to use for that, of the moon, the red moon. The crashed wagon encounters got some good rewards for the characters, so I definitely do that. Roadside raiders, you could drop out. So if you're coming up on the 4 hour mark, you could drop out roadside raiders. If you got plenty of time left, you could throw it in. Finally, the party arrives at Bazzoxan on page 47, and that's the end of the adventure. I had also the party at the Emerald Loop Caravan stop run into Aurora guards, which then followed them on to Bazzoxan. and help them get into the city. The Aurora guards are always looking for mercenaries, and the party looks like quite a band of mercenaries, so they were invited to go with them to Bazzoxan. If you had the rivals traveling with the party, I would definitely try to avoid having the rivals take part in combat. Have the party be separated for some reason from the rivals at the time of any combats, otherwise they could go very long. Or they could be very anticlimactic because the party and the rivals together would just overwhelm most monsters. Okay, pacing for 8 hours. If you've got 8 hours, you're going to probably be able to get in every single random encounter. You can spend a lot more time in Jigao with any kind of warring destiny or any kind of infighting between the rivals and the party and play that up quite a bit more. When you hit the road about the hour 2 mark of the first session, you can do the Lucky Break, the Auroa Patrol, the camp. Then about hour 3, you can do Demonic Carrion and Moorbounder Mayhem. Again, you might run out of time. If you get near the 4-hour mark, you could drop Feast for the Eyes. Then I would assume you do after the break, and you come back in doing the second set of 4 hours. Character intros, recapping the adventure, any interactions with the rivals. The Emerald Loop Caravan stop, you can spend some more time of the adventure there. Hour 2 through 3, you hit the road again. You got the Yellow Omen, you got the Crashed Wagon, you got the Roadside Raiders. And you have a lot more time this way for the Roadside Raiders, so that can probably get done. And then you got the arrival at Bazzoxan. So for pacing, there's several tools that you have, there's like one main tool, and that is how many random encounters you have the party interact with. And there's a few that you want to for sure include before the Emerald Loop, if possible. And that is the Lucky Break encounter, where the party can find the ring that has a tie-in to the rivals. The Demonic Carrion encounter, where the party can find the dagger that they can then trade for a different item at the Emerald Loop Caravan stop. And Moorbounder Mayhem, where they can rescue Justice, and Justice can reward them at the Caravan stop again. 2 other encounters you'd definitely like to include if you can for the treasure that's in them: Auroa Patrol and Crashed Wagon. The other encounters you can drop if you're running out of time, I would say. Okay, let's look at music now. So the music for this adventure would be broken up into 3 main sections. I'd say you'd have something you'd want for Xhorhas, something for the Emerald Loop, and something for the Barbed Fields. So for Xhorhas, I picked Blighted Farm. Seems like it'd be odd, but looking for something that's like desolate, has like overtones of large megafauna. I guess large and mega are the same thing, of megafauna. And so Blighted Farm kind of sounded okay for that. I'll play it here for us. Something for the party to have in the background during the Xhorhas encounters. Then Elven Glade for when they are at the Emerald Loop. And finally, Abyssal Gaze for when they head into the Barbed Fields. Looking at the map here of the Barbed Fields. You're coming up onto Bazzoxan there, and that sounds like this. Pretty eerie, scary, abyssal, strange music for that fits well with the Barbed Fields. All right, so that's music. Now for knowledge. I like to give characters or players knowledge their characters have for the players to share it organically during the game. And I've gone different ways of doing this in the past. I've tried to give it to the characters or the players ahead of the adventure, but sometimes it can be hard for them to know when to apply it. So I did something different this time where I actually put it into the room descriptions that I have for the adventure, or the area descriptions I have for the adventure. Let's do a sample of one of those. So party comes to the first leg of their travels. Actually, let's see. The party is getting ready to hit the road to Bazzoxan. And of course, I use the splash image here of the road to Bazzoxan. Very awesome image. The quickest way to Bazzoxan is to follow the Emerald Loop south before turning east onto the Hallowed Path. Then, the player Veldrin of David's player knows that the dirt roads of Xhorhas are well patrolled by the Kryn dynasty, but the wastes are still dangerous. Mastodons, moorbounders, and demonic creatures are always a threat, especially to those that venture too far from the roads. So this is stuff that can be shared in character by Veldrin and Zavar. They both had the knowledge to know those things. And then, for example, on when they see the Draconic Corpse and they encounter a lucky break, just off the road ahead, you spot the corpse of a large draconic creature, covered in roiling, misty shadows. The grass around it has been trampled flat. Zavar would know that that's a Gloomstalker, and he can share it with the party as he likes, and some of the lore about the Gloomstalker in character this way. That's just by whispering to the character. Now, you got to make sure that only one player controls the character, otherwise, any player who sees the character will see this whispered message. I'll put the info like this that I used in the description for this video. And if it overflows the description, I'll put it in the first couple comments for the video as well. Okay, now for resources. This adventure, of course, is part of the Netherdeep campaign. I did some macros for underwater and ruidium, which haven't come up yet in the adventure, but there's a link for that in the description below. And then, of course, Critical Role has adventured through these lands. So I went back and looked at what Critical Role videos this started at, and the one titled Jorhas, Critical Role Campaign 2, Episode 51, I have a link in the description below, is where they first enter the realm of Jorhas. And it continues on from there. And finally, for the maps. So there's no maps of the overland travel provided, but I found this one by Heroic Maps to be pretty thematic of a wilderness, windswept plains, megafauna, etc. Use this one for a number of encounters. And then, of course, you have the map of the Emerald Loop Caravan stop. And that is it. That is Chapter 2. The party should end up, when they're done, coming to the town of Bazzoxan. And there's just an awesome image here that you want to use. That'll be the title image for Chapter 3 when I run that, of the town of Bazzoxan. There's also some videos out there on the internet you can find where Matt Mercer's describing, what the town looks like for the party. So there you go. I hope you have a good time running this adventure. Please check back, leave some comments below, and let us know how it went when you played it. Thanks again for watching.